Welcome to Still a Part of Us. Today we're talking with Doug about his beautiful son DJ, who was stillborn at 21 weeks and 6 days. Doug, if you would like to quickly give us a rundown about you and your wife Amy and your son Doug.
Sure. Yeah. Again, I'm Doug, and my wife is Amy, and I've been together 11 years, and got married in 2018. Renovated a house together with the intention of starting a family. Got pregnant April 2022 after about a 2-year infertility journey. Pregnant in April, and then right before 6 months, August 19th, 2022. My wife went into preterm labor with our son DJ, and we lost him during the course of the delivery.
And we're coming upon the one year anniversary at the time of recording. I would like to talk to you about therapy. We talked a little bit beforehand, and you said that you still are in the throes of grief, which is very understandable. This beautiful, tragic moment of welcoming your son into the world, not the way you planned, but it does have a significant impact on you. What would you like to say about your journey in the aftermath of the death of your son?
It's been a long year. We luckily, through our UPenn fertility practice, were recommended to a maternal fetal medicine division, and they were gracious enough to set us up with their therapists very quickly after the loss. So we were able to, within the first month, set up appointments individually with individual therapists, my wife and I, and super critical to be put in contact with not just therapists, but therapists that specialize in maternal loss.
Yeah.
Super critical to have someone with that background as a sounding board for all of the what ifs. There's so many what ifs in this situation.
Yeah.
And only the therapist is really good at pointing out, the absurdity to which our minds will go to try and make an irrational situation seem rational.
Yeah.
Without the therapy, I couldn't have gotten back to a semblance of, I'm not my former self. I never will be, but I am able to function and work.
Yeah.
Which huge steps from where I started.
Now, it is amazing what mental gymnastics our brain will do to try to understand a situation, a tragic situation, a devastating situation. And it's amazing the scenarios that go through our heads. Like, oh, what happens if we would have done this differently? And it can lead to a very unjust thinking and unjust actions on our own parts. Was there any strategies that you learned on how to think through some of these scenarios that you want to play through in your head? Or what have been some coping strategies that were taught to you?
Yeah, therapist has been really good about coping strategies and just nipping in the bud that tendency to the what if. Don't even play the game. It's not what if. There was one reality, and that's what happened. And our loss is unexplained. Our infertility is unexplained. Why did we go into preterm labor? There's no medical reason.
Mhm.
You're not you're doing yourself, your mental health, any justice by playing over scenarios where you were the reason that something different could have happened. It's not, should I have taken my wife out of the hospital in midst of labor while she was 3 centimeters dilated and driven an hour and a half to a NICU? No, I shouldn't have. Will I dream about that till the day I die? Yes, I'll have dreams where I took my wife to the NICU.
Yeah.
And the therapist's strength of really, separating the time between the action and the emotion, right? To kind of allow time for your body and mind to process what's happening before you emotionally react to it, has been pretty critical. As after the loss, we've had so many life stresses. Everything is amplified when you're in grief, right?
Yeah.
So little stresses become big stresses, little daily little inconveniences that grow into big rifts. You really need to learn to slow down and not take any communication for granted whatsoever. You need to really, for Amy and I, it's been a fundamental reimagining of how we communicate with one another.
Yeah.
Um, More grace, more compassion, more listening, more emoting, not reacting swiftly. You build in 11 years of a relationship, you build patterns, right? And
Hmm.
some of those aren't that healthy. And when
Yeah.
you're both in deep grief and tragedy like this, you can't make assumptions anymore. You have to really be tuned into your partner and listen to them and hear what they're saying for what it is, what
Yeah.
they need, not like reacting.
The lines of communication are so changed, as you were saying. Like, you need to reestablish, like, okay, I am going to actively listen and take at face value what you say. Like, if you say at this moment that you're okay, I'll believe that. But if in 10 minutes you say, okay, I'm not okay, I'll believe that too. Communication is such a high importance after grief, and learning to recommunicate is hard. It is hard. It's good though.
It's very critical to not assume what you think the other person is trying to communicate. For sure, you need to stop it right away, because for us, there's so many triggers that lead to spirals for both of us, right?
Hmm.
So you want to be there for your partner in a way that aids their recovery, not
Hmm.
be a
Yeah.
trigger for continued
Yeah.
grief.
You don't
And
want to be a hurdle.
what your normal reaction may be a trigger for your other partner, and you may have to adjust your actions significantly from what you're used to in the space of your own relationship, but also personally. Like, I like to deal with grief with loud music.
Yeah.
Guess what? Not everyone feels that way.
Yeah.
I can't rock my Black Sabbath at 25 volume at 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning like I want to all the time.
Well, that's why headphones were invented. Yeah. Are there any other strategies that you have come to really appreciate? There's one that I thought was just absolutely fabulous when I was going through a therapy. I was given like the permission to rethink, and I was in the therapist's office, and I would just go through the scenario and focus on minor details and truly and honestly look at the details that were hurting me and understand them. With one thing that I kept reliving was my son's cranial structure was not firm, and that really was a big a hurdle for me to get over. And in the comfort of my therapist's office, I was able to relive holding my son and focus on that and understand why his cranial structure wasn't firm. And then I was able to get over the fear that I had of that. And I was able to accept, that was just part of what had happened, and being able to rethink, relive, and understand. I never would have done that on my own, but with the guidance of a therapist, I was able to. But that was one thing that I was thinking. Anything that you.
Powerful. We did not get to that level. The way I describe it, I kind of reference the moment in the hospital as like being stuck in that room, and
Yeah.
when I sleep and when I dream that I'm stuck there, and maybe that
Hmm.
would be a very useful thing for us to have gotten to relive it in a way to take away the parts of it that make it feel like a prison, and just the nature of being there with his body for so long
Yeah.
was that we've heard many stories of people from the past where that was not typical practice in the past. The body was removed and you were not
Yeah.
permitted to spend
Almost.
any time with it. And my wife was very, very grateful for that time that she got to spend with him. And I feel traumatized by that time because
Mhm.
it's something that I'll never forget. That's the reason she loves it, is the reason I'm traumatized.
Yeah.
She gets those moments with his body forever in her mind. And for me, I'm stuck with them forever in my mind. So I would think I will have to adopt your method there and try and really come to grips with what happened in that room and not see it as a prison, but just as, you know, a step in life.
Yeah.
As far as coping with my therapist, we focused on this creating space and using grace and breath to create pauses before reacting. I'm very quick to react based on this is not my first life trauma. It's the worst, but it's not the
Yeah.
first. And I think this trauma opened up the place where I used to keep all my other trauma, and it all came out like big scary monster style. It
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
all tied together. So finding a way to separate those things into individual units of trauma that need to be addressed each in their own and
Yeah.
separately is this self awareness that I'm gaining to start to address these years worth of traumas is the biggest thing that I got from my therapy.
I really appreciate how you said finding grace and taking a pause before, I don't know if you said before reacting. And a lot of what our initial feelings, our initial reactions would benefit with finding grace, just understanding these people that I'm interacting with, they don't know everything. So I need to give them grace. And taking that moment, just even if it's just a brief breath, to understand, okay, I need to keep myself in check as well. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Finding grace, taking a pause, and then reacting before reacting. Thanks,
And
Doug.
for me, it's always been easy to jump straight into anger as a man with a high level of testosterone. And I think in this culture specifically, where men's emotional
Machismo, yeah.
development is suppressed,
Yeah.
I think. It depends on where and how you grow up, but
Yeah.
I think culturally, men.
We got to show our machismo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of glorification of traits that go against being sensitive.
Yeah.
But the sensitivity, if we were all more sensitive to our surroundings and the people around us, I think life would be a little better for everyone.
Amen to that. Amen. Well, thank you, Doug.